Yeah, there we go. All right. All right. Well, thank you on fairly short notice for setting this out at this time and being here today. And there's sort of two conflicting things that are both true. One is I'm going to move through this quickly, and we'll stay as long as we need to. Okay, in terms of everybody sort of being on the same page. So both things are true, and we'll sort of see how this goes. If we could, let's pray before we begin. Holy One, this seems like a moment when the blessings around us are so rich, from worship today, from all of the community celebrations of Pride, for our reminders of how much you love us. And now we have another opportunity that seems like a blessing, and so we ask that you help us to have discerning minds and clear hearts as we move forward and as we consider what is before us. We know that you can speak to us, and so we trust that and we listen even in these moments. Amen. Okay, so just a little bit of a background, although most of it is in the handout you got, and we're going to move through the slides, hopefully. Maybe. I forgot to pray over the technology. Let it be so. Shine on us there. Okay. All right, so while we're waiting on that, in November of last year, we got an offer on the land. We've been keeping you updated about that because mostly all that's been going on since they made the offer is just some of the preliminary due diligence that they needed to do around surveys and a whole list of things to do to satisfy the county and all those things. So that this has been a real preliminary time, and so only recently, like about a week ago, did things kind of kick up a notch, and so that's why we're here. We met with our realtor, Scott Godfrey. We also met with the potential buyer and their realtor. So we had a really nice long meeting. When I say we, I mean the board of directors. And so we have 4 of our board members here. Who else? Cindy. Yeah, Cindy and Jill are not here. Is that everybody then? Marlene. Yeah, she's gone. So, okay. All right. So they're also here to answer any questions and to reflect on any things you might like for them to do. Let me say that our intent today is to share information, but also for you to give us feedback about a decision we need to make. So the reason we did this so quickly is because a decision is going to be important in order for us to move forward. Okay? So that's kind of where we are. Looks like we've got the slides up. Let's go to the first slide if we can. So here is the history around this land sale. And just in the event that some of you don't know, part of our property extends beyond the tree line that you can see out here to my left and your right for about 12 acres. A fair amount of that is swampland. Okay, so in November, we got an offer of $850,000 for that piece of land. We only listed it for $599,000. So to have gotten an offer that was that much above the asking price was a great surprise to us for sure. In February of this year, we got a request from the buyer for an additional 42 feet of land that extends 42 feet this way from the tree, a little bit further back than the tree line, but basically right there. The buyer was willing to pay $150,000 extra for that 42 feet. We also, as a board, voted and agreed to that. And then, just this last week, we got a request from the buyer to purchase residential credits that come with the part of the land we are retaining. That's the part we're sitting on right now for $350,000. Residential credits, we'll talk about a little bit later, but he is willing to pay us $350,000 for that particular addition in the purchase. That means our current offer is $1,350,000 for property we had listed at $599,000. So I don't think any of us saw this coming, and so that's a big number. That's a big number for us. So I want to give you some particular information before we take questions, because I think we can answer a fair amount of them in advance. Okay. So our board meeting with the buyer and the two realtors included that we are at a point of decision that we need to make, which I just mentioned, because the potential buyer cannot move to the next phase of this without our decision to move forward. Okay, so this is a moment right here where the buyer cannot do another thing with regard to the sale of the property until we make a decision. The decision is this: selling the buyer our residential credits for $350,000. The other part of this we had already accepted, so this is a new piece. Now this is important because it has bigger impact than the other things did, so you can move on here. The upsides to us selling these residential credits is that this is an opportunity for us to double dip. All right, so let me come over here for just a second and explain this. Currently, this land we're sitting on right here, where the church and our buildings are and our grounds are, currently we could sell this as residential property or as commercial property. For him to buy the residential credits for $350,000 means that we could still sell this property down the road if we ever wanted to as a commercial property, which means we would have gotten paid for both, you see, which is probably a pretty cool opportunity that we could get paid for both. If we retain the residential credits, down the road we could sell residential or commercial, but not both, you see, so that's why it's a bit of a double dip. Again, we would still have commercial rights to sell this property if we ever wanted to in the future. According to our realtor, the commercial selling of this land is the highest use of this property anyway. Part of that is because commercial property is more valuable, and so it would sell for a higher price. Also, you notice all the development around here. It would likely go for something like a mall of some sort, or a strip mall, or some kind of a store, something that the residents around here would use, and it would be close by. Now, please don't hear that we're thinking at all about selling this property. We're not. Just trying to say, if there was ever a time down the road that we wanted to do that, that would probably be the highest use of this property anyway. The downside, there only seems to be one that we can think of, maybe you all will think of some more, is that should we ever want to sell the property we are retaining, we could not sell it as a residential property. That's the downside in the future, so we couldn't sell it that way. We could sell it commercially, but not residentially. Okay. So that seems to be the primary downside of this particular thing. And again, we would be getting paid for that. So it's really kind of a tiny downside, but it certainly could be. All right. Okay, so you have the only good drawing that we have that has come from the buyer about what this would look like. Okay, so I'm going to see if well, it doesn't work up there. Okay, so at the bottom of the screen is Lockwood Ridge. Okay, so it's like Lockwood Ridge and looking up at the property. Okay, so you can see where the church buildings are and the office buildings, which as you're looking at it are off to the right. You can see our entrance drive there to the far right, and then that's the church. And then that green area to the left of the church is all of that out there, okay, that we can see. Well, it was working until you pointed at the TV, and then it gets lost. So I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is the only thing we have now because it's a preliminary drawing. You know, it's like no absolute plans have been put in place, but the potential buyer did have to submit this to the county. So that is the reason that we have this drawing, and it certainly indicates the buyer's intention about what they want to do with this. Okay. Yeah. I can. So I sure wish I could, see if I can get over here and point a little better. You see me? All right. Right here is the edge of the property that we can see. So this part right here. All right. And so right in here, there is a 10-foot buffer that is required by law. That's coming up in the next slide, I think. But there's a 10-foot buffer that is required by law right here, where the buyer would be obligated to plant trees in that 10-foot buffer. So that's what we would see when we look out there.
Is that a buffer with a 9-foot fence?
With a what?
9-foot fence, possibly, to prevent anybody from coming over on the properties?
They are not required to do that.
I think that'd be a wise thing.
Okay. All right, wait. Can we just wait till we get through all of it before we... I think we'll answer some of these questions as we go through, and then we'll come back. So just hold on to that. Then on the other side of the buffer is a parking lot, and then there is, did they say 120 units is what they were looking at here?
If they get the mitigation credits.
If they get the credits, right here. Okay, so these are all the units. This is a retaining pond here. This is the other edge of the property over here. Okay, so that's... This is the entrance to the buildings they're going to build right here. Can you see this? This is our entrance over here. And so apparently one of the things that was a big plus that happened when the buyer was dealing with the county is that they thought they might have to cut in here and make an entrance, but they are not going to have to touch any part of the property that we're retaining in order to have an entrance. So it's going to be down here. Okay?
Lily, do you want to mention why the...
Wait till they can hear you.
Hello?
There you go.
Do you want to mention why the mitigation credits are so attractive to this buyer?
Yes. So mitigation credits is that builders can buy these mitigation credits when they purchase something like swampland that's not buildable, but will be retained as a part of our environment, right? And so for all the buildings they built somewhere else and destroyed the environment, this is how they mitigate that, is to purchase these credits. However, the county and the state of Florida only puts these mitigation credits out there periodically, and they never know when they're coming. They never know whether it'll be years before they come back. So the state of Florida did put some mitigation credits out there in the last, well, it happened right around the time that we got the offer. They heard the mitigation credits were coming, so they wanted to get in on that. That's why they offered us so much money, is because it's worth it to them, because they have to do it somewhere along the way. And so they can buy these mitigation credits. And so our land suffices for that, because it's swampland, a lot of it.
And then do you want to explain? Hello? Do you want to also explain why the residential credits are attractive? Like if they're buying our residential credits, how that affects?
Why don't you say?
Sure. So what they want to do is they want to buy our residential credits, which are, it's a formula that you use, but it's like 9 people per acre or something like that. So it's about 45 credits, which adds up to about 200 extra people, I think. Is that about right? So the reason why they are offering us now $350,000 for our residential credits is because those can be transferred. They can be used on any part of the land. And because, you know, a lot of that land over there is swampland, You see the retaining in the, that will remain, you know, kind of the swamp part.
Wetlands.
Wetlands, thank you. So the reason why they want to buy these credits from us is that they can build a taller building or put in more units. So regardless of whether we accept that or not, that is most likely what the building is going to, there's going to be 2 buildings. So if we didn't buy the 350, or if we didn't accept the residential credits, then it would be maybe a 2-story building. If we accept the bid for the 45 credits, they'll then build maybe a 3 or 4-story building. So that's.
Just point of clarification. I'm trying. I know this is the only map that we have or illustration. What is the blue? Are those structures?
Those are actually the buildings, yeah.
Okay, and so the parking structure would be all of those lines?
Is all
right?
around it,
Where
yeah,
is
in
the-
white.
Yeah, and where is the swampland in relation to those? That's
That
what-
is that big blue.
middle.
Wetland, okay.
In the middle, the very middle is a retention.
Oh, so there, okay, so there really isn't wetland between our property and that in that, okay. Just trying to get-
And you can see the back of the property there, back that way. Okay, all right, let's keep going through here. I talked about the 10-foot buffer where they're required by law to build trees. After the buffer, there will be a parking lot, and after that, the actual living units. That's what you saw in the drawing. We can also do some planting to further buffer our property if we want to. I mean, we could. In fact, our realtor was suggesting there's a kind of bamboo because it grows quickly, but it doesn't spread out. That we could plant something like that and completely sort of keep us from the visual of that. So there's some options we have there. Okay, you can go next. Okay, so one of the things we want to point out is that if our neighbor on the other side, who you all hear from regularly, who's in her 80s, if she dies and her family comes in and takes this property and sells it, we need to understand that they could put up a 9-foot wall, they could put up anything over there they want. We have no say about that, and that would be infinitely worse. So let's just remember, you know, what we're talking about here. So on this side, that could happen to us any day, really, anytime in the next few years that would happen. So we just have to remember we would have no say about that and be right outside our window. Okay, so we may be faced with that no matter what. The biggest deterrent to this deal going through is the passing it through the Manatee County Commission. The buyer talked to us about having talked to some of the commissioners. I think he said about 80% good about them accepting this proposal. But there is still that percentage in there about whether this will pass the commission. So as far as we know, that's the only thing that's really deterring this on that side of things, okay? If we go forward and everything goes well, the closing should be March of next year. So in the next 9 months or so, this whole thing could go through. We would not likely see any building for a couple of years. You know, that would just be the closing on the land. That would not mean any buildings. It'll probably be a while before we would see that. Okay. All right, so with that, I want to take all of us to take questions. And I want to get Mike because he held a question a while ago.
Thank you. Main question, is the proposed parcel that's being purchased going to include all the wetlands?
Yes.
So Trinity will have no responsibility for the wetlands in the future?
That's right.
That's great.
That's right.
Also, as far as those credits go,
Which ones? Residential or
residential credits,
Uh-huh.
I strongly back that from the point of view that it helps us at this point. And also, if we ever do consider selling this parcel we're on right now, commercial sale of it is far, far more, and we'd be just losing those residential credits. So I wouldn't even consider going residential for this. If it's sold, I would definitely go commercial. We'd be it behooves us to get all that additional revenue on that end of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I just have a question on, are they going to have a second entrance in the back of the wetlands? It looks like the parking area goes all the way around.
I don't know the answer to that,
Okay.
but we can write it down and ask the question. Do y'all remember anything about that?
I don't think so.
Didn't he say though that they now own property all the way out to the street beyond the retention pond?
I don't know. I don't know.
That they were planning. I think when we had the discussion with the buyer, he said that he owns property all the way out to
Whitfield.
Whitfield, and that they have commercial spaces that they're going to put out there, but they can come in with a road from that side to the complex.
Oh, okay. All right, and just the other quick thing, Mike mentioned the fence, and you mentioned the bamboo. Bamboo is very, very messy. My neighbor has it, and it's not something I think we want over there, but that's down the road.
Well, Scott was talking about there being two different kinds of bamboo, and that one of them does not have the same kind of spreading, and you can't stop it and the whole thing. So it was just something he threw out there that in terms of quick. I mean, if we wanted a barrier that was going to be faster growing. What? It was called clumped bamboo, right? That rather than spreading bamboo. Yeah. Yep. Cheryl.
Lily, I'm concerned about the 40 feet that I'm looking at out the window there. What am I going to be looking at when I look out of our windows? Am I going to see that beautiful tree line still intact? Or am I going to be looking at something else?
Well, right there is where they're required to put a 10-foot buffer of trees.
Okay.
They're required to plant them. Will it be these? I don't know about that part, but they are required by law to do that.
Are they going to cut down that tree line?
Yes, because that'll be their property, yeah, if they buy it. Yeah.
Well, if I'm understanding correctly, we've already decided that they can have that 40 feet.
Yes.
Isn't that what's on here?
Yes,
So the 40 feet's not even debatable today.
right,
Okay.
that's right.
So really what's debatable is the residential.
The residential credits
Okay.
and accepting that money or not
Right,
going forward.
right. Well, I get messages, and the only message that I've gotten was to try to sell the least amount of property that we can. Amen. That's all I've got. Amen. So that's where I'm coming from. Thank you for doing this.
Of course.
Can I ask clarification real quick? Looking at that map, you see our church, and then you see a parcel of green, and then the wall that they would be, or the barrier. So a lot of what we're seeing, including where the labyrinth is, remains our property.
Oh, yeah. That 42 feet does not touch anything that we have out there.
So that tree line that I think Cheryl was referring to is the one that's on this side of that green space, not the other side.
Right.
Yeah, if you look at where Mari is right now, that's where that barrier is between their
That's
edge and
that
ours.
10-foot barrier right there.
But the tree line I think that Cheryl's referring to is the tree line that is right by our driveway.
Oh, I think she's talking about out there.
All
the way out there.
All the way out? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, okay. All right, Marlene and then Jimmy.
I met the developer, seems a legitimate guy. What I'm really not quite clear on is when do we get the money from him if we sign a contract with him?
At closing, March of 2025.
So the land is tied up at that price until then?
Yes, we would not receive any other. Well, we could, but that would not be the spirit of the contract.
Okay, and we know he's got the money?
We do.
Minor detail.
We do.
I'd like to make a comment. You know, for years, we've had people potentially looking at buying this property, and nothing has ever really come through. Nothing has, they've found it impossible for them to work through it. This is the first time we have a very serious offer, and it's an amazing offer, you know? I mean, just think of, we talk about preserving this church forever. Just think about how that can help us preserve this church forever, so.
And they have already invested $200,000 just to get to this point. I think that's a pretty good faith kind of behavior. They're serious about it if they've already put that much money in. Okay, we got Jimmy, and then I saw Vicky, and then David.
Will this be condos or apartments, and are we able to disclose who the buyer is?
I believe that they will be apartments, is my understanding. Huh? They're all rentals, and I believe we can.
They are rentals. 80% of them will go at cost, at market value, but they are going to save, it was either 20 or 25% will be for low-income housing.
That's also a plus, given who we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Question, if you can help educate me a little bit more about the residential credits.
Mm-hmm.
So does this impact us being able to build on that this property?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Because we're not residential.
Right.
So if we wanted to build on the part we're retaining, we can.
Okay. I guess my mind can't get around that. How could we sell them the credits, but then we still build on it?
Because we are a commercial property. How we use it right now is as a commercial property. So now, if we wanted to build apartments where people were going to live, then that would be a problem.
Right.
Because they would be residents.
Okay, but a church facility.
The church
Okay,
facilities, we can do whatever we
Okay,
want with the rest of the
Good,
property.
because I still have a vision that we will be bigger and
Yeah, me
more,
too.
more
Me
more
too.
buildings eventually,
Yeah.
and
So we've
social
got
hall
plenty
and-
of land if we
Yes.
need to build. Yes, yes.
Additional question.
I called on David the next, so I want to get him. Go ahead, David.
The only thing that I am concerned about is everything seems that it looks very good on paper, but you mentioned the commission, the Manatee County Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really all boils down to the fact of if they approve it or not.
It will. I mean, and we have no control over that, right? I mean,
So-
that's true. That's
So
why we.
in that case, even if we decide that we're going to do it, we still have to wait for their decision.
Yeah, the buyer has to wait for them to approve
Okay.
their plans. Yep, that's
Okay.
right.
But they're what?
She said the Manatee County Commission is very pro-development, so I think we can. What?
They get criticized for that.
They get criticized for that. Okay. All right. Where are we in the Jim? Okay. And then Carol.
The apartments they're going to build, do we know for sure they're just 2-story, or are they going to go 4 stories? I mean, that would be a concern.
Well, if we sell them the residential credits, then it could be up to 4 stories. All right. Mm-hmm. And why is that a concern?
Because we are pretty close. If they go to 4 stories, they're going to be right. I mean, even with trees, we're going to see them here if they go to 4 stories.
Yep. All right. Carol had her hand up.
So Vicki and I live in Manatee County, and some other people might as well, and we're so aware of the corruption that is there. So it's going to go through if we approve it, and I'm for it. I have to say that. But I'd just like to know who the buyer is.
Do you have the name of that here? Hang on a minute. I got it right here. I just need to look it up. It's called Curco Capital, C-U-R-C-O Capital. And the president of development is the guy that we met with, and his name is Braden Curry, B-R-A-Y-D-E-N Curry. All right. Henry.
A comment on the 2 or 4 story traffic. There's going to be a lot more traffic with the 4 story than the 2 story. getting out of this parking lot sometimes a nightmare anyway because we're sitting on a curve. You can't see from the south of you. Now we're going to be worried on the opposite end of us too, or on the other side of us. Now,
Okay, yeah, I
come,
hear.
come to my question. How much money do we have in escrow? And if we don't have anything in escrow, when are we going to get the escrow money?
They put all $850 in escrow back in November. Huh? We're not doing that? Oh, no, that escrow's held somewhere else, but it is held, and we have the paperwork around it. Yeah. If they back out, yeah.
My question was just that I hear a lot of, like building high walls and tree lines and stuff. All that stuff is nice, but I'm hearing 120 possible families right over there that I think it'd be cooler to look over and see like kids walking across to come see us and to come to our church and to our events than to look at a tree line. So I think we should be careful about trying to wall them off too much, because that's a wonderful opportunity for us to, especially if there's some low-income housing there, that's like a ministry for us. So we want to be careful not to build the walls too high so that they can come over to us.
All right, we have Mike.
Okay. In regards to the traffic flow, all these additional... In regards to the... Am I on? Yes.
Yeah.
In regards to the traffic flow, Henry brought back that concern over there. Our traffic in the mornings is usually on Sunday mornings only. And these being residential, you're not going to have much of a flow other than the work during the work weeks from Monday through Saturday, probably. So I don't think that would really impede us in that respect from that point of view. Now, back to my original question I was asking Lily is, I strongly advise having a 6-foot fence there like we do in the back, especially after finding Marty telling me that this is going to be rental and possibly low income. The liabilities of any children coming onto our property, that this fence would save for anything they get involved with having any occurrence on our land, it would impede them from coming over here that much more. Granted, they can still come along the walkways, but not through the side. I would be insistent on having a 6-foot metal fence, as is on the very back of the entire property to the back subdivision, for future liability concerns on this church on this end of it. Granted, if they want to come over here for Sunday service, they can easily walk on the walkways, as do some of our people at this point. So, my input.
Okay. Vicki, and then Dawn.
So I think what I'm hearing from some of the comments is that we have such a beautiful retreat-like setting here, and people don't want to lose that, the ones that are concerned about the taller building. And and I understand that perspective. So I guess what we need to weigh out is $350,000 worth losing that. And I don't really have a particular answer right now or opinion about that. I'm glad that I am not the pastor on the board to have to make that decision, because I think that is a difficult decision, because we're kind of spoiled with this beautiful retreat setting, and will a 4-foot or 4-story building interrupt that? We don't know. It may not. It may be just fine.
We have so much, this land right here, there's so little land left in Manatee County. And so I hate to tell you, but it's going to happen. We're going to have more people coming in on both sides.
And it's going to be right there.
It could be right there.
With nothing we can do about it. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I think it's really positive that they're doing low-income housing, because if you look downtown Sarasota, I couldn't even imagine with what I make, even probably affording just a blade of grass, you know? You know, I mean, and that's so many people in Manatee County. And the fact that that's so positive that they're taking a portion of that and making it affordable for the common residents of Branton and Sarasota.
Yeah, I hear you.
I wanted to comment too. You know, if we're going to build a 6-foot wall fence, I'd rather put it right over there, okay? Because what we're looking at there is not so nice looking in the first place, and you know, when she dies, that land will be easily developed, okay? This has been a big challenge because of the swampland, et cetera. But that'll go quick, okay? And there'll be something big going up over there, I guarantee you. So let's put the 6-foot wall fence over there, okay?
Well, I was
And leave
just,
the tree.
okay. And I didn't hear wall fence. I heard like what's at the back of the property and what's right here. So that, I mean, that seems a little different than a wall to me. I don't even want to say those words out loud, build a wall. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as we continue to discern really what the best thing is for our church is to see what impact overall and now as well as long-term, specifically future state, the impact that we want to have on our community. And in this opportunity with these extra monies, there's so much that we could do. And granted, we're not living here, so it's not like they're taking away our view that we're here 24/7. Yes, maybe it might not be as eye-appealing, but just to know what we will be able to do with this opportunity is tremendous.
Okay, where were you?
So I think
Roy.
this, I think this, you know I don't need a mic.
Yeah.
I think this side currently is more vulnerable, and so maybe we could do berms. Berms you can make higher and wider and plant on top of the berms, and you can kind of get more garden effects through berms, and you kind of have little surprises behind them. But I think this side is what we see currently, and I think maybe if we start to berm now, or have some people in the church that kind of start to berm through the year, then we're already ahead of the game, because what I've noticed, I'm in real estate, and so what I've noticed in a lot of developments, they're required to put in certain trees, but unless it's stated in writing somewhere, they come in and put like a 4-foot tree on their buffer, or they put in a 20-foot tree on their buffer.
Yeah, he talked about doing a mix of tall, medium, shorter in that buffer. So that's what he talked about. All right, we've got online questions I want to be sure we get to, but Susan, I see you. Is there anybody else in the room? I just want to make sure I see it. Okay, we'll come back to you in just a minute, Charlie. All right, go.
We have a couple comments that I wanted to share. One is that our realtor, Scott, has always had Trinity's interest in his best interest, and they've had experience with that. And then the other comment was comparing to the other apartments that are newer on the other side of Whitfield at the juncture, are 5 stories high. So that's a good comparison for you to look at and see. Part of those buildings are taller than what we're talking about, and some of them are about the same level of height that we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's a good point. If
Yeah,
you want a
so,
reference point. It's on the corner of Lockwood Ridge and Whitfield. There's a big new apartment complex there. Yeah.
So those are the ones that we've
Is
had
that,
so
is that
far.
any other questions, or those just comments?
I think we were able to answer through the
Okay.
presentation most of the questions around the credits. So
Okay,
thank
all right.
you.
Susan?
Everybody's talking about putting a wall there, and it's going to stop them from walking around. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people who are going to come and use our dog park. So I've lived in 3-story buildings and never heard a noise. So saying that it's going to be noisy, it's only going to be noisy if they build a kid spot in that area. Otherwise, you're not going to hear anybody.
Well, and we have a lot of room before you get to the living spaces. I mean, there's the 10-foot buffer, and then there's parking lot, and then there's the building. So we're going to be a good long way from where people are actually living and doing things. Yeah. All right, we got Janelle. Janelle wants to say something. Charlie, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll get you.
Okay, I'm talking about the larger trees and smaller trees. I'm with Rotary, and we have a lot of microforest projects, and you do that on purpose. That's the way the trees will grow quicker. You have different type of trees. You have some smaller, some larger, and there's a way to do it so that things grow much quicker that way. And that's what we do in the microforest.
I didn't know that. That's a good point. Good point. All right. Thank you for that, Charlie.
We've been talking a lot, or I've heard a lot about growth in this church, and even before I started hearing about the desire for growth in this church, My first Sunday I came here, God put it in me to share with Pastor Lily that this church was going to grow at least twice. It is the day that I was there in February, and that was just going to be the beginning of what was going to happen throughout this year. And I think part of that would, well, that's another topic, but I think that it's been discussed that this property over here, it's likely going to be taken over at some point and be built up. So if we already know that's going to happen, why are we so quick to also have that happen over here as well? And I just also, I look at this picture up here, and I think, and I see this beautiful complex that they put together, and I just imagine, like, what if that was still owned by MCC, and those were, and we were helping others get in, and we provided that housing for families and those that are in need. Because big corporations make promises and stuff, but they often are lying. So to say that they are going to do this and then them actually doing it, those are two totally different things. So I just wonder, like, I know the money looks good, and coming from not having a lot of money, like when you hear millions of dollars, like, oh man, like let's hop on that. But I really trust that God has plans for this church and this location specifically for growth. And I don't think it means having to get rid of the property over there, because I think God intends to grow this to a place that we're going to be using that over there. And so to get rid of it so soon and lose that opportunity, I think it would be a real shame. So, yeah.
I hear the spirit in that, Charlie. I really do. I think we also have to remember that it would be those same corporations we'd have to go to build our own. And the amount of money it would take for us to do wetlands like that is just, it's hard for me to even comprehend what that would take. Well, agreed. I mean, you know, I'm a big believer in that, and I think we have to do our part in that due diligence, you know, as well. So anyway, but I hear the sentiment, and I hope all of us hear that, you know, that we have a young person saying we can still grow, you know.
Amen.
Yeah.
One question. Next steps. I'm thinking, and I'm looking at the bylaws in my head. This decision would be made by the board.
By the board, yes.
And the board does not necessarily need congregational vote like they do on the budget.
No, which is why we are doing a pastor chat and not a congregational meeting. This does not require congregational vote. But what we felt very strongly about was that we wanted to give you more information and get input and get a basic straw poll about where people are, because we need to make this decision, because the buyer cannot do one more thing until we answer this question about the residential credits. So that is accurate. We do not need a congregational vote for this. You need a microphone.
I think I can, yeah. I've been listening as a pastoral presence in the back, and I don't want to offer you my opinion, but I want to offer to you what I'm hearing. And I'm hearing two main concerns, and I think one of them might be being misconstrued, which I hope is, it sounds as though we're concerned about people with low income being near us. Whether or not that's our intent, that is the impact that it's having on me right now. And so I want to hear that. And low income means being a teacher in this county, right? I mean, that's low income housing today. I would be living in low income housing probably today in this county. Okay? So I just want to reflect back, because I think we need to all hear that. And the second thing that I'm hearing is this concern over, as the Brits might say, privacy on our land. I'm here 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And I love our land. And I love what we have. Most of you are here for about an hour and 45 minutes on Sundays. And that's about all. And so I just want to reflect to you that it sounds very unwelcoming as a congregation that we're so caught up on something that might affect us such a short period of time in our life. And I just wanted to share that. I don't normally get my voice into these things, but it's breaking my heart a little bit, honestly. And so I just wanted to reflect back what I was hearing, because I don't believe that's the intent. Okay? So I want you to hear that as well. All right?
Intent versus impact.
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Collis.
And I'm just going to grab the mic a second, and thank you for sharing that. I mean, we're up here, and hopefully y'all have seen or enjoying the growth in the music program. And this year, with the stretch that we've all done to support bringing in JT and focusing on bringing in more folks, that takes money. And I don't, I'm not in the budget stuff, but I know I worry every night, like how we're going to keep sustaining the things we've already committed to. I worry every time we have to order a new piece of music, because all the fun music we're singing right now, we have to buy. That's not stuff, a lot of that music we have, that doesn't fit us anymore. So we are investing in change, but I could tell you just in this little piece, it takes funds that I don't know where they are right now. So when not to be caught up in money, but those funds, just to me, wow, what a shot. And hearing Reverend Leah today say, how special this is, and I take that for granted, and how we could sustain that and grow it. And the reality is, it takes funds that I don't know that we have right now. I don't know the ins and outs of the budget, but that's the reality. Everything we're doing here to hire Christina, and what a joy, right?
Yes.
That took some money. We can't access that kind of talent and commitment. The reality is, the market is, we need to pay for that, and that was a stretch. But what a joy. And so I just want to share that.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. All right, Bonnie, and then...
I just have one quick thing. A few years ago, we made trails through the wetlands, and so people could access through there, because there's was like a little island back there, but nobody took advantage of that, and nobody even came close to that. So it's like, to have somebody develop that, where we can look at something nice, okay, to know that the wetlands are going to be taken care of.
Right.
Okay, to know that people aren't going to be disrespectful for it, and at the same time, still have enough land so that our dog people can come onto it and enjoy the land that we're letting them use. So I think it's just a big plus.
All right, we have some, Delia, you wanted to say something?
I have a quick online while we're waiting for that. One of our online folks said maybe we could agree to put a welcome path with an open gate for the residents so they could get in and use the land for our dog park and attend church or our activities.
Oh, be welcoming. Oh. Wow. Thank them for that.
And this is following up with what Charlie said. I really think that there's a lot of potential for growth for this church, especially with families. God knows how much we need the message that you guys have. We see the fight against the system with our own children because they are being injected seeds of hate towards this kind of families. So I think that more than focusing too much on selling or not, focus more on what the potential with that money we have to maybe build programs for families, merge families, and welcome all the kids that need this message. So I see a lot of hope with what's to be done, hopefully selling.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I only have one thing to mention. I heard people mentioning the privacy issue and the issue of a wall, perhaps, or a fence or a buffer on that side. If you're concerned about privacy, remember our back boundary is now about as far as from here to that wall, all homes across the back. And I don't remember that being a problem yet. So I don't think I think we're being panicky, thinking that we're going to have a big issue with what's coming up next door. We got more already on the back. And on the side.
That's a problem, but not because, yeah, not because of the other. Okay, Amy.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of submit that.
Stand up, please.
Sorry, that
so we can see you.
We've been praying for things to happen in our community and in our church. We prayed about our budget. We extended about our budget. How are we going to reach these? And I think we're getting some answered prayers here if we're just open our minds and hearts. A lot of us have probably heard about the dude that's stranded on the roof in the flood, right? And the canoe goes by, right? And then the Coast Guard comes, and then the helicopter comes, but he doesn't accept any of them. And then he says, "God, I thought you were going to save me." Well, hello. Right? So, I don't know. I'm just thinking that this might be a vehicle that is sent by God that we might be able to take advantage of.
Thanks, Amy.
Bonnie, I'd like you to comment on, we've talked, I'm on the real estate team, and what, as far as needing money, we also need money for structure repairs at least here, right, Bonnie? In terms of, I think all of you don't know what's needed here. A lot is aging in terms of our structure. Besides wanting to do new things here, we've got an office and we've got a Pierce Hall, et cetera, that really has some serious issues that need money to redo. Bonnie?
Yeah, like I just learned through this process from Bonnie that Pierce Hall, could just crumble anytime.
Yeah, Pierce Hall has got a significant amount of dry rot. In fact, we had the 2 bathroom sides going down the walkway between have been replaced, but all the siding is getting, just disintegrated by the sun. The office, we have periodically the termite guys coming in because we're constantly finding areas where termites are, having a good time. So, we really need to think about what we're going to do with those 2 buildings if and when we have the check in hand.
Yeah. All right, Cheryl?
This is my personal opinion, but I've just got to say it. I feel blessed that we have $1 million here, and we certainly do need to spend some of that money. But in my heart, I do not think we need an extra $350,000 to go from 2 stories to 4 stories. I just don't think we do. I think we should be very happy with the $1 million, and that's my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for expressing it. All right, Mary, and then Ed. I know you've had your hand up a couple, and then Mary. Let's go to Ed and then Mary.
Referencing giving up the residential rights and getting the extra 350 that Cheryl's talking about, is that something which will negate the deal entirely?
I think that's a really good question, whether or not that would be a deal breaker. I don't know that, but I think it's possible that it would be a deal breaker because he needs to make money. I mean, their company, that's fair. So.
All right, you just stole my thunder. I was going to remind everyone that one of the things we have to be aware of is that the developer has to be able to make money. A larger building allows him that profitability to spend more money, and when he spends more money, it goes in our bank account. So I think there is a major impact.
So it could be that would be a deal breaker. I don't know that. So we will have to see, based on our decision today, what he says about that.
I think that the thing that we may have overlooked a little bit is that it's holy land, and we really have to pray about this. But I think also the fact that there's opportunities to, get an increase in our budget and everything else. We can't let that go. But we have to remember that this is really special place.
And the part that's special is not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, let's hope so.
Well, it's not. All right, have we gotten all our questions? Oh, Mike's got.
Is the mic on? Yes, it is. There was a comment, I think it was from Charlie in the back beforehand, regarding the utilizing of this property for possibly other residential units. When I, Doug, and Felix were on the board when we purchased this property over here, there were numerous studies done for different types of housing over there. For us to have been in the position to be a contractor to set this up, it just didn't work. We looked at it so many different ways. Even with Reverend Nancy Wilson being here at the time, we were looking at it as being a retirement community for UFCC people. That didn't work out either. This looks like the most reliable opportunity to utilize that property for them and also for us for furthering Trinity at this point. So just to let you know, there were numerous studies done in the past. None of them worked out. We didn't want to become a contractor. We didn't want to hire contractors. And the wetlands proved to be very much of a problem for getting as many units to make it profitable at all for anybody at that time. Thank you.
That's good to know. Thank you. All right, anyone else needs to say anything or ask anything? Anything else online, Collis? Okay, all right. So I just want to get a straw poll so we kind of have an idea about where you all are so that we can go ahead and make a decision, all right? So are y'all comfortable just doing this like a raise of hands? This is not a formal vote. It's just a way for us to kind of have a sense of where things are. Is that good? So all who would be in favor of us making this next decision to sell the residential credits, if you'll just raise your hand so we can sort of. All right, and those who are not for that, who are opposed to that, you can put your hands up. Okay, all right, so it seems like the majority will is that we move forward. So the board will make that decision in the next day or two, and we will go from there, okay? I appreciate your time, and especially with the late notice, thank you so much. And I think Mary Comiskey brings up a good point. Let's continue to pray over this. I mean, really, no matter how it goes, there must be something for us, or this wouldn't be in front of us. So I think we can remain open to that and lean in and trust God to keep leading us in those directions. If any of you could stay and help with the blessing bag assembly, that'll be in Pierce Hall. And also please stop by and get a piece of cake to go. We had a cake for Reverend Leah and Sarah Helen today. Wasn't it wonderful having them here today? Yes. And I'm so happy to have someone like Reverend Leah come in and remind us how special what we have is and how much it matters. All right, and you don't know that till you don't have it. And I appreciate her coming in with that that vision. Hey. Hi. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much.
I thank you for bringing this to us.
Of course. We could have, yep. None of us felt good about doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what is in the board, what do you want us to do now?
Well, we will